Everyone, and welcome back to the Time Shifters podcast. This is Christopher. I'm here with Matt.
Hey.
Yeah, good. This should be a good week. I'm looking forward to this discussion.
Okay.
I am. I'm really okay. But anyway,
You're geeked up.
I'm a little geeked out, a little bit. Before we do that, though, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in, of course, and just remind everybody, if they haven't already, they can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcast, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, or whatever podcatcher you use. I'm sure you'll be able to track us down. You can join our Facebook group. Just go to facebook.com, search for the Time Shifters group. And I did start a Time Shifters podcast page, only so I can sort of link episodes right from the WordPress, from our website, right to Facebook. Just one more place to have a link of the show. I don't know if I'll be doing anything other than that, except maybe just it's a landing pad for sharing the post. So I think they'll automatically show up there, and then I can probably just share them right from there wherever I want. Oh, speaking of Time Shifters on Facebook, the Time Shifters band from Prague, the punk rock band, their new album did drop last month, last month. So I went ahead and I grabbed the album. I bought like a digital copy off of them. So very cool. Congratulations to them if they happen to listen. That's awesome. Let's see what else. Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter. Go to at TimeshiftersPod and at Movies at the Mat. And TeePublic, of course. You feel like buying a T-shirt or like the T-shirt Matt's wearing there, or a new sticker or something for the car or whatever. A duffel bag. You can get all kinds of stuff there. Go ahead and purchase that, and then of course a couple bucks usually comes our way to help support the show. And get on the mailing list or something, because they're constantly having like 30% off sales. That's the way to go. Even I've waited to the 30% off sales to buy the stuff.
Your own shirt.
My own shirt. But yeah, I think that's all the important bits there. So I guess we'll go on to see what the news desk has to offer. Right off the top of the bat, at the time of the recording, just a couple days before we recorded this, it'll be a little old by the time you guys hear it, but Scott Wilson passed away. Now, he's a character actor. He's had, I think, been acting since, I think it said 1967, when he appeared in The Heat of the Night was his like first role or breakout role, and then he was just a character actor for decades, but is probably best well known for a lot of people as Herschel from a couple seasons of The Walking Dead, and arguably maybe the best part of those seasons of The Walking Dead for some people.
Yeah, it was for me. I felt like he kind of went through what I went through, of that, like, can there be a better world? Can we do this the right way? Can we save these people? And then he's kind of forced to acknowledge that, no, you can't, and there's a certain way you kind of have to go about things. But he still held on to that idea of hope, of being a better person.
Yeah, he was definitely the conscience
You're right.
of the group. Yeah.
And when his character died, they have yet to get hope back.
No, yeah, he was like almost a moral compass for the group. And yeah, once he was killed in a rather spectacular way, they've never been able to regain that.
Right.
They've been it's been almost anarchy since.
Yeah.
It's been the Rick-tatorship, as it's been called.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, fantastic actor. I mean, he's one of these people, you were going through his filmography, and like you see a lot, you recognize these films. You're like, okay, I've seen that, but I don't necessarily remember him in that. It's actually going to be kind of fun. I know him best now from The Walking Dead, but it's actually going to be fun. I'll be watching some older films now, and I think I'll go, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I know that guy.
Which means he did his job of, being a character and blending in with the movie and, not trying to take it over and just being a professional.
Yeah, but he was brilliant in The Walking Dead. So I mean, I do think he really showed some talent in those 2 seasons. I think it was just 2 seasons, 2 or 3.
Yeah,
it's definitely 2,
maybe 2.5.
Maybe
he showed up in season 2, and I think he died in season, halfway through season 4. I think it was.
That sounds about right. Yeah, but he was definitely a highlight, and I may actually make a point of going and finding some of his film work. See if I can find stuff that actually had a decent amount of role. Not just here's your coffee or something. But just to see what else he's done. So that's all I had.
So for me, this is kind of interesting. It's not really news, but it's film worthy. I was on the set of a commercial filming
No
last
kidding.
week.
No kidding.
Through my job, I've been helping this other company kind of like beta test one of their products, and then they wanted to film it being used. I'm not going to go into the details of what it was or where I work.
All right.
But because when they told me that this was the idea of like film their product being used, I didn't have a full vision of what they were getting at. I thought it was just come in, film a couple of quick things, and go. No, it was 5 hours of them building up a film location in one of our work areas. And yeah, take one, take two, get the lighting right, get the, raise the curtain, lower the curtain, get the screen up, try this, try that. How's the sound? It was really interesting to see. And their cameras were really nice.
Yeah.
They set up like their own dolly and everything. It was really something to see.
Yeah, that's very cool. And just for a commercial. So
Yeah.
You can just imagine that times 1,000 when
Right.
you're going to a film or something.
Yeah. So it was just kind of seeing just all the details of like with every take, how somebody's standing there and they're marking down all the times that are going by on the camera and they're saying, they're writing down the notes. All right, this one was the one we said was good. Oh, this is the one we said was great. This is the one that we said maybe not. Just seeing all of that happen and just how everything, okay, reset everybody back to one and things like that. And, doing 5, 6, 7 takes for, 8 seconds of shot.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. It's kind of neat seeing, kind of going behind the scenes and seeing, behind the curtain. I mean, I've been on a couple indie film sets, which is maybe not to that level of, technique or anything, but it is interesting how you see everything gets set up and how much time it takes. Okay, we're going to set it takes like an hour and the scene is 3 minutes long.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move over here and we're going to do this. And it's a whole lot of moving and just setting things up and getting it right for maybe just a few seconds of film when it's all said and done.
Yeah. And I think this commercial is going to be like 60 to 90 seconds, and
Right.
just see how 5 hours
5
goes
hours
in
gets
for 90
whittled down.
seconds. Yeah, but it was really cool. They were very professional. I think it was a crew of like 6 people, and yeah, it was a fun day. Exhausting by the end of it, but fun day.
I bet. All right, but that's very cool.
Another bit of news that I saw pop up was, I'm not sure if you heard about this, but Morton Bay came out with a study. It was called Weaponizing Haters, The Last Jedi and the Strategic Politicalization of Pop Culture Through Social Media Manipulation, found that at least 50% of the hate geared towards Rian Johnson and The Last Jedi were either Russian trolls or bots.
Okay. Sure, why not?
I just think that's really interesting that movie came under so much fire, and it turns out half of it was just total BS.
Right. Yeah, well, and that is, I mean, it is something we've seen that where social media can be used to manipulate people's opinions.
Right.
And to be used as a tool for better or worse, whether it's political or entertainment, film or whatever. And it's obviously, and it's only going to be, I think it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
People go to the social media for the opinions of other people on whatever film it is or something, and now you can't trust that.
Right.
What did my friend think? Well, I didn't see it, but I read this article, and he shares this article. Well, who knows where that article came from now?
Right.
It's shocking.
Yeah.
It's disappointing.
It's very disappointing. I've been getting a little bit better at being able to figure out like who the bots are, because like there's certain tells, like either it's in their profile or in their username. Like if it's a name followed by like a
Digits?
bunch of numbers, bot, block, report, whatever. Get rid of it. But also, like, don't jump on a bandwagon. Like, if somebody's out there saying something, hating on something, was that your opinion, or are they forcing their opinion on you and you're thinking, like, maybe I do feel that way? Like,
Right.
Stop, think, where's it coming from? Don't give in to that. Formulate your own opinion, then go see what's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've learned that just because I think I've ruined some films for myself by reading a little too much into the criticisms, and then you go to see the film and that's all you can see.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I see what they're talking about. Oh yeah. And had I not, I think I would sit there and go, "Oh, that was great. That was a good film. I enjoyed that."
Sure.
Or it wasn't very good, but I had a great time. So I try really hard to I try really hard to keep away from the criticisms before I actually see a film or a television show. Maybe I'll read a review if it's just like a fair review and not a critique review.
Right.
If I think there's a difference.
Yeah.
So I'll try to avoid the real critiquey ones. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I try to actually see it myself, and then sometimes I'll go back and read other people's reviews, and then after I've seen it, I've kind of formulated my own opinion. Then I was like, well, I don't really agree with that, or I can see where they're coming from, but I think they're reading too much into it, But that's where the conversations can begin.
Yeah. That's what I prefer to do. Read something after. And then, because sometimes it's like, oh, I didn't think of it that way, or I didn't even notice that part. That was interesting.
Well, and that's happened with us sitting here, where you've found things in films where it's like, oof, I didn't see that. That's rather dark. Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely.
But then going on that, and I think this is hilarious, because that study comes out, and then right after, Lucasfilms announces that Kathleen Kennedy is signed through 2021. They re-upped her contract for another 3 years, which I think is great, because so many people were calling for her to be fired, and now you're wondering how many of those people were actually people.
Right.
And yeah, they saw through that junk, and they just, no, she's back for another 3 years, and I'm glad, because I like the movies that have come out so far. I really thought The Last Jedi was excellent. I thought Solo was a really fun movie. I think Rogue One was quite good. The Force Awakens, okay, fine. That was how they kind of kickstarted things. It was a popcorn movie.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything to write home about, but it wasn't a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination.
And I have to admit, I don't really look for anything more from a Star Wars film than just being entertaining. Yeah, give me the bowl of popcorn and just, I'm not looking at it for social commentary or anything. It's not what I want in my Star Wars anyway.
And it made almost 2 billion movies. She's going to get fired now? It's ridiculous. So yeah, it's good for her, good for Lucasfilm,
absolutely.
Good for Disney for seeing through all that.
Mm-hmm.
Other thing, and I've talked about this on Twitter a lot, the problems with MoviePass.
Is it still around?
It's still around, and if you were signed up for MoviePass, I technically still am. It runs out in the middle of December.
Or does it?
Or does it? Because they are sending emails out to people and kind of hiding in like the way they're wording it. But basically, if you don't choose to opt out, they'll sign you back up.
Wow.
Yeah.
So read the fine print, folks.
Yes, you have to go into this email. You have to say, no, don't sign me back up. Otherwise, they sign you back up. And it's ridiculous. That's slimy.
It is slimy. It is a desperate act from just poor businessmen.
Mm-hmm. I don't like this company anymore. I haven't used it in a few months because I can't, because every time I try to go see something, can't see it. So yeah, but I keep checking my email, making sure I didn't get one, but I think I didn't get one because I'm still signed up.
Right.
I'm making sure my wife is checking because she was signed up. They're not sending it to everybody at the exact same time. They're quote unquote trialing it. Mm-hmm. That just means it hasn't gotten to you yet.
Right.
So check your email, be aware, don't let them take your money.
That is crooked beyond crooked. Unbelievable. It didn't work, folks.
Just let it die.
Go. Try something else. Let it die.
Take it out back and shoot it in the head. It's done. Old Yeller was a good dog. Time to put him down.
You want to try something? You want to try it again? Get a new name. Try it again. Come out exactly what you want to do with it. Don't try to fool people into, it's always going to be this, and not.
Yeah. I'm looking at the AMC one, which is like 3 movies a week.
I was going to ask you if that was something you'd be looking into once the MoviePass thing is.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I can't figure out if there's a separate app or if it's their other app and you sign in through it. But I'm not worrying about it right now. But yeah, it's 3 movies a week. Yeah, I don't do that, so that's not a problem. As long as I go,
need one, at best. Yeah,
right. 1-2 movies a month is fine for me, and you get your money back real quick.
Right. Yeah, how much are they charging?
It's like $9-10, $12, something like that.
For a month?
Yeah.
Considering ticket prices are $15 to $20.
Right. Exactly. If you're going at prime time, and they're not going to restrict you and say
if they're going to let you in on the 3Ds and the IMAXs and everything too.
I don't know if they're doing that, but I do know it's like, at 7:00 it's this much. Like, no, you still get in and it's fine, and none of the restrictions that MoviePass have put on.
Gotcha. I understand.
So this will be might be a little bit dated. I just thought it was so funny. We both saw the trailer for Dark Phoenix.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I didn't really care for it. You didn't. Did you care for it?
I was amazed how very little Jean Grey is in a trailer for a movie about Jean Grey.
Yes.
It looked a whole lot like a movie for Mystique and Jennifer Lawrence.
Yes. But my thought was interesting. So that trailer drops, gives the date of when the movie's coming out, and the very next day they push it back like 4 or 5 months. Probably because it's just not even close to finish yet. You don't push a movie back that far
No,
for
exactly.
marketing reasons.
Maybe that's why there wasn't much Jean Grey and Dark Phoenix footage, because they
still-
don't have any.
She's still walking through green screens right now. And because I heard something like the movie took like 20 some odd weeks or 30 some odd weeks to film, and then they did reshoots for like that exact same amount of time. It's like you shot 2 movies because it's that bad, because this is really getting just patchworked.
It's really disappointing, too, because I've enjoyed the last few X-Men, or, well, 2. I guess there's been 2 X-Men films, right? X-Men First Class and then whatever the other one was. With
Apocalypse.
Apocalypse.
But then there was even the one where like Wolverine travels to the past, so that was kind of like
that's the one I
a
was
joining
thinking of.
one.
That was
Yeah.
the one I was thinking of. Yeah, the Days of Future Past or something like that. I always remember that. Okay, so Apocalypse is all right. Didn't like that one as much, but the first 2 I really enjoyed. So it's like it's disappointing to see them going through this kind of trials and tribulations on this one, because you're kind of hoping for another First Class, and it's looking more and more like it's going to be X3, back
Again.
back in the 90s or whatever it was.
No, that was the 2000s.
2000s,
Yeah,
sorry.
because the first X-Men movie came out in 2000.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But that's how long ago it is with so many superhero movies.
It seems like forever ago.
The last bit of news, and this got me so excited. For one day, and one day only on November 12th, Batman Mask of the Phantasm is going to be in theaters.
That's going to be pretty, isn't it?
Once I leave here, I'm going to wait in line.
That's gonna be pretty. Especially, I mean, they just did the remaster and everything for the Blu-ray, so it's going to be a damn fine looking print.
Yep. I can't wait for that. The movie's only like, what, an hour and 20 minutes? Yeah. So, yeah, it'll be a nice little evening out. Go for it. Treat yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Support a great movie.
What's the date on that?
November 12th.
November 12th.
I think it's a Monday.
Yeah, all right.
I will be there.
I think I might have to make a special trip for that.
Yes.
Make an exception.
So that's the last bit of news I got.
Excellent. All right. Well, yeah, that's all I had. Don't have anything else. So we will go ahead and take a short break here and listen to a promo for another podcast. And when we get back, we're going to look at 1989's The Abyss.
Prepare for a spine-tingling, nerve-shattering podcast featuring all your favorite monsters. You won't believe your ears when you listen to Monster Kid Radio. Here are your hosts, Derek M. Cook, and his ever-rotating stable of guests discuss your favorite classic and sometimes not-so-classic monster movies. Subscribe to Monster Kid Radio through iTunes or Stitcher, or visit MonsterKidRadio.net before the next weekly episode of Monster Kid Radio. Go through the archives for interviews with Sarah Karloff, Victoria Price, and Joel Hodgson. Listen to discussions about movies like Creature from the Black Lagoon, Island of Terror, and King Kong. And don't forget convention coverage from Monster Bash and the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival. Classic monsters, modern talk, and the head of Rondo Hatton. Only on Monster Kid Radio.
All right, Matt, you stare into the abyss. The abyss stares back. This is the first time watch for you.
Yep.
This is the first time I've watched it in quite some time. I actually put it on our list because it's kind of like I just was in the mood. I wanted to watch it again. I was just kind of like, I need an excuse to watch this, sit down and watch this again. And I have not seen it in quite some time. And then I have the 2-disc DVD set that came out in late 90s, I guess, which includes the theatrical and the special or director's cut edition. So I believe we both watched the special edition, which is the one I recommended. And I was shocked. I mean, originally, the first time I saw the theatrical, and it was like, yeah, okay. And then I watched the special edition, and then I was blown away. Like, they completely eliminated, like, the whole point of the film
Right.
with the edits. Now, I had always thought it was the studio that asked for the cuts, but things I've been reading here recently, it was actually Cameron that made the decision to cut the film, in part and largely because apparently the effects weren't done. So I guess I can't blame him, but it was an unfortunate cut. There was also a fear that any movie over like 2 hours long was kind of like you couldn't do it. The theaters didn't like it because they couldn't show as many. And then, of course, just a couple years later, Dancing with the Wolves shows up with its almost 3-hour runtime, and everything's it's all open after that.
Kevin Costner doesn't care how long a movie takes to tell.
Even if that is 2 hours of padding and an hour of story. So The Abyss, a special edition, written and directed by James Cameron.
Yep.
James Cameron doing exactly what James Cameron does. You know, if it didn't exist, he makes it, and he does whatever he has to in order to get it done. So I think this is a film that probably should never have been made. I mean, it's amazing it was completed and no one died. Is that type of film of The Abyss? So I am really interested to know what you thought of this film. Initial reaction to the film.
Initial reaction is it's one of those movies that, you know, it kind of always comes up when people like start talking about like sci-fi movies, like, oh yeah, that's one of those underrated ones, or that's one of those really good ones. Had I known that this was James Cameron, I wouldn't have wanted to watch it.
Really?
I'm not a big fan of his.
Okay.
There are 2 movies that he's done that I've seen. I've seen quite a few of them that I like, and one is True Lies, and the other is Terminator 2.
Okay.
I don't like the first Terminator. I don't really think it's any good. I couldn't get through Aliens. I
was just going to ask, you didn't like Aliens, really?
couldn't get through it.
Oh.
There's several others that I've seen. I'm just sort of like, I just don't see what James Cameron sees. I don't know what he's like. It's like when you're looking at like a bunch of pictures, like in an art gallery, it's like, what were they looking at? I don't know what this photographer wanted me to see. So that's just how I am. And, he took a really long time to tell a story and get a message out there that I feel like the movie War Games did in half the time.
Fair enough.
That it's like the exact same concept, far more entertaining in like an hour and a half rather than the near 3 hours that this was.
Yeah, this time around while I was watching it really struck me how Day the Earth Stood Still this was. Original, of course, 1951.
A bit, yeah, but it took so long to get to that point, whereas with The Day the Earth Stood Still, that was the point almost from like 10 minutes in.
Right.
This just like, I kept thinking, because, it starts with, there's a U.S. sub that's tracking something. They think it might be like a Russian sub, and then it moves in a way that it can't be anything of this world.
Travels at 100 and something odd knots.
Yeah, 130 knots. Plus, it's like making these like pinpoint turns, and it comes for them, and then it doesn't attack them, but they just get caught in its wake, and that causes them to crash. And then you don't see or hear anything about like aliens for like another hour. Imagine if you're getting to the theater just 5 minutes late. When the aliens show back up, you'd be like, wait, what is this about? Because the whole rest of the movie is just, oh, we're going to dive down. We're going to rescue. We're going to see if there's any survivors in this sub. Oh, we don't want like to have a nuclear crisis because we're just off the coast of Cuba and the Russians are involved and it's still kind of Cold War feeling and we don't want to attack each other. And then all of a sudden, some alien swims by, and you're just thinking like, wait, what is this movie? Because they're just thrown in randomly, and I kept thinking like, I think you could recut this movie, take the aliens out, and still tell a similar story. That's just as interesting, if not more. Because I think the whole idea of like tensions with the other countries and somebody kind of going crazy because they're dealing with like the change in pressure and it's affecting their mind, that's an interesting movie. And then the aliens just spring up every 45 minutes. It was a little weird.
All right. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, it is. It does feel like there's a times where it forgets that it's supposed to be a science fiction film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt very real, very, very grounded, real tensions, things that you can understand kind of at any point in time. And then, oh, right, remember the aliens. Don't forget the aliens. It's been like, an hour. Here they are again.
I have a feeling that James Cameron, just as a movie maker, his whole point is to create technology for movies, and it doesn't matter so much what the story is.
He just wants that in the movie.
He wants it in the movie. Exactly. I had forgotten, and I watched the sort of behind the scenes. There's an hour long on the DVD set. There's an hour long Making of the Abyss documentary, and I had forgotten that the aliens and everything. When you actually see the aliens proper, not the vessels or whatever, but those are puppets.
Oh, were they?
Those are animated. Yeah, those are puppets that are animated underwater.
Okay.
With lights and everything. And okay, yeah, impressive. Cool. Didn't realize that. And of course, this film, Industrial Light and Magic, pioneers the computer generated graphics for the film with the water tentacle.
Yeah.
And stuff, which then go on to be instrumental in Terminator 2.
Yeah, I thought that too. I was like, oh, okay, this was his beta test, and he's going to perfect it for T2.
Exactly what it was. They needed special helmets so you could see the actors and to be able to communicate with the actors. So they literally went to a company that builds dive suits, and they invented the helmets that are used and the packs that are used in the film. So yeah, I think it's just him. He just wants to keep pushing, film technology, and it's kind of like, and like you were saying, you're telling this film, you got this message in this movie, and then he cuts that message out.
Yeah.
For the theatrical cut.
Right.
So it literally is. It's like he doesn't care what the message is.
Right.
He just wants to like,
wasn't this cool?
Isn't this impressive? Yeah.
Right. He comes at it as like a film student rather than as a storyteller.
Yeah, a little bit.
And yeah, because I watched the special edition. I didn't watch the theatrical version, but then I went and read what was cut out, and I was like, that's the whole point of the movie.
Yes, yeah. I couldn't remember, so I went back and I pulled up the theatrical and just went to the scene to the very end, and like, yeah, sure enough, there's like 10 minutes of incredibly important bit gone. Like, how could you do that?
Yeah. And that's why I just don't see eye to eye with James Cameron. He just wants his movies to look nice. He pretty much doesn't care what you're saying or what you're doing. Just doesn't it look pretty?
I think he is. He is a much more of a style over substance director.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my overall opinion of the movie. Not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. Just sort of, it's there, and now I've seen it, and now I can say I've seen it. Hooray.
There is like I was saying, that this film, there's no reason this film should have actually been completed. The trouble and everything that they went through, and then the issues that they had during filming, and the hell that the actors had to go through. Ed Harris was so bent out of shape after this film. It was years before he'd even talk about it again. I don't think he talked about it until they released the special edition on Laserdisc, I think in the early 90s. Which is when they filmed this documentary, that he actually would sit down and talk about his experiences, because there was one or two times where he almost died.
I mean,
he almost drowned.
Anytime a movie, like anytime you pitch to a studio, oh yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of this in the water, under the water. Why does a studio sign off on that? Anytime there's like a movie done with water, there's always problems. Something gets slowed down. Like even the great one, like Jaws. We talk about Jaws. Freaking shark broke because it went in the water, and now everyone's got to be in the water, and we don't have our freaking monster. Something always goes wrong, and it's amazing to me, and I'm surprised he would go back to that with Titanic. Half of that movie is filmed in the water. all the problems he had on this, why the hell would he do it again?
And this was in uncontrolled circumstances to some extent because they were looking. No studio could house what they wanted to do, and so they found a partially built nuclear power facility. That's what they used, and it was abandoned. The project was abandoned, but it left these giant Pit A or Studio A, Pool A, I guess they called it, was the actual storage container for the nuclear power. And so, like, great. So it was like 7 million gallons of water.
Just sitting there.
It was just an empty shell, just giant reinforced concrete. And they're like, we can fill that up. So they just practically drained a lake, a nearby lake, to fill it, and another tank that they used on site too. It was another large, basement, or would have been a basement of this facility, and they filled it up for a lot of the smaller scenes. So it was all done in I think it was in South Carolina, and is where they filmed it. And so you're subject to whatever Mother Nature throws at you.
Yep.
You have to they had to build filtration plants on site to filter the water so it'd be clear enough and safe enough to film in. They had to figure out how to keep it looking dark, so they had like black beads floating on top of the water to block out the light. And they had a giant tarp over the top of it too, which was, as they described, like, oh yeah, tarp's going to come. It's the size of Kentucky. And then, this tarp comes and yep, size of Kentucky. It's just a gigantic tarp.
Because that's what you want to know as an actor. You're going to be underwater and we're going to put a tarp over you.
Yeah. Well, the tarp was like over the ceiling or the roof line.
Better.
Yeah. The beads were on the water, and that's exactly why. Because it was a safety thing, because they needed to be able to, if they needed to come up, they needed to be
even
able
that
to
would
through.
intimidate me. Like, there's a layer between me and life.
Well, and then what's funny, during production, there was a really bad storm, and it ripped the tarp right in half and tore it off. And so we're shooting night from now on.
No,
So it starts getting into the fall. It starts getting really cold. They have to pull in. They had to pull in hot tubs so they could all. Everyone could sit in and do and figure out the plans and stuff to keep warm before they got dumped into this water, which they tried to heat, but then one of the facilities actually busted and broke. So they only had half the filtration and half the heat that they had when they started.
This movie got willed onto the screen.
Yeah, it really was. And of course, the studio's kind of asking,
"Are you done yet?
Why is this taking so long? Why is this? What's all this extra money for why the wetsuits?" Is like, well, the chlorine ate the old ones.
Right.
They had crew that most of the guys, the stars were in the suits, so they didn't really feel the effect. But the crew were just out, and they just and they were getting chlorine burns. Their hair was bleaching. It's just, how did no one just go, no, forget it? I think it had to have been a case of, we've already put this much into it, just get it done.
Right.
There had to have been the point of no return was probably after the first month.
Yeah, that sounds right. Because you figure that's when most of the money got spent.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, there's just certain points about the movie that I did like, and then certain points about the movie that just confused the hell out of me. Do we want to talk about the cast?
I was going to say, do you want to talk about the cast a little bit before we get into some of your points? Ed Harris heads it. He stars as the film as Bud Brigman, or Virgil Bud Brigman, who does, I think, a phenomenal job. Ed Harris is one of those actors that he doesn't seem to show up a lot in the films I watch, but when he does, I like what he does. He's a very, I think, as I understand, he's very kind of a method actor. He really gets into his roles. Once he sets out to do something, he wants to be able to do it. That happened a couple of times in this, where there's a couple of times where he was having trouble and he was getting mad at himself for not being able to, get the scene, get the shot and everything. So he does put a lot of effort and a lot of work into his roles, and I really I appreciate that, and I enjoy watching him for it. Mary Elizabeth Mastrotonio. Is that how? She's got a heck of a name.
She does.
She's not an actress I'm familiar with outside of The Abyss.
I mentioned it a moment ago. She plays in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves as Maid Marian.
Oh, I did see that mentioned, but I don't. It's been so long. I saw that movie once, and I don't remember.
She's also in The Perfect Storm.
Yeah, I didn't see that
Okay.
one.
Yeah, I really like her. She doesn't show up enough. She's one of those people who I always thought was
She's
very
a great
good.
actress.
Yes,
No, she's
very
really good.
She's got a lot of range. She comes off as very powerful. She comes off as kind of like a presence and a force.
Yeah.
And yeah, she makes herself known.
Well, I liked it, particularly in this film, where she looks unassuming, but she is a force. She is a hard ass, and she is very demanding. And her character, I should say, is a very demanding person, and I like that she's the unassuming, but she can convey what she's supposed to be, even though she looks just like the wallflower.
Right.
I really appreciated that. Michael Biehn, who was a James Cameron staple, he's like one of his stable actors. He's always, Terminator, whatever, always uses him when he can. He plays Lieutenant Coffey here, who was the military, the leader of the military group that is used to go and explore this submarine. And of course becomes, at least for the first half of the film, the antagonist of the story.
Is he though? That's one of the problems I had with this movie.
Okay.
Because the movie starts where it's her character and she's diving down with the SEAL team to get with the crew, because the whole idea is that submarine crashes and a hurricane's coming in and the US government can't get their own dive team out there in time before the hurricane hits, and they're worried about like the Russian government interfering, so they enlist this private underwater like oil rig dive team.
It was an experimental underground drilling rig, which was designed by
Lindsay's character.
Lindsay, right.
So she's brought in, since she knows that equipment. The SEAL team is brought in, and then she's talking about how when you go underwater, when you go that deep, you can experience some kind, like the pressure can affect your brain. It's a physical response, and it can make you paranoid. It can give you the shakes. It can affect everything. Like the changes show up on an EEG I was reading. I can't remember what the name of it is. And that's what happens to him, and it makes him paranoid, and it makes him think like people are out to get him. He doesn't trust anybody, and he feels that he has like a real mission to accomplish. Is he a bad guy? He's ill.
Yeah,
he's sick.
Under the influence of the
of
the pressure of sickness, right?
So everyone treats him like he's a villain, and I'm like, no, he
needs help.
He needs help.
Good point.
And I don't think that's fair. That, I get that they have to stop him. I get they have to subdue him. But they knew something was wrong, and they didn't do anything about it until it was too late. And there is that part where Ed Harris is like, I just want to talk to you. And then he realizes he's got a gun on him, so he has to fight him. But then when they're doing their whole like underwater submarine bumper car fight, that's a villain battle.
Yeah.
And then he dies like a movie villain. And I'm like, he's not a bad guy. They killed him because they screwed up earlier in the movie. And that's not fair to him.
All right. Yeah, you find that. Yeah. You find that angle.
It's not right.
No, agreed. No, it's a good point.
If they had changed his character, that he was just one of those like, conspiracy theory, we're too close to Cuba and I've got to carry out my duty because maybe they're going to not make it so that he's sick. Just make him that he's been on one mission too many kind of thing.
Yeah, that would have been a better, if you're going to make him the villain.
Right. Go that way. Don't make it that he's someone who's suffering from a physical condition, and then you're going to put him down for it.
Yeah, you definitely could have maybe saved a little trouble when they first noticed his hand shaking, that maybe if they had approached one of his other men and go, dude, your commanding officer's suffering from this sickness, you need to do something.
Someone has to take over.
Yeah.
And they do agree.
Yeah, exactly.
But they don't do anything about it.
Right. Yeah, they end up kind of helping save the day once he goes off the deep end.
They all wait too long.
Right.
So they're at fault, and then they have to kill him. Yeah. And that's not cool to me.
All right, fair enough. The rest of the actors are guys that, maybe you've seen in some stuff. I've not. I wasn't familiar with any of them. None of them really even looked familiar for anything else.
No, except up on the ship that was controlling the rig, I saw
Chris Elliott.
Chris Elliott. Yeah. He was the only other person that I recognized in the whole movie.
Yeah, and I don't care about him whatsoever. I don't find him funny.
Anytime he shows up, I'm like, hey, it's Chris Elliott.
Right.
Playing Chris Elliott.
It was apparently he tried out for the part of what was his name? Sonny, the guy with the rat.
Oh,
down on
okay.
the,
I could see that.
the conspiracy nut, the tinfoil hat guy, and the part went to a different actor, but James Cameron gave Chris Elliott just, you can be the sonar operator on the boat.
I want you away from the rest of the crew.
I don't find you funny either. Here, you go on the boat.
But that part with the rat, that scene bothered me too.
They really did
that.
5 different rats.
Oh,
yes,
those poor things.
The
Highly oxygenated water.
Thank you. Yes. Can't say it. Yeah, that liquid does exist.
Yes.
The really deep dive, it can be. And so they got some experts from like Duke University. And they got the stuff and like, yeah, we do all the time. You're not going to hurt the rat. It's going to freak him out, but it's fine. Just make sure you drain the lungs. That's all good. So they did 5 different rats. And they said all the rats came out fine. Yeah, they didn't like it, but physically they were unharmed.
Yeah, I was watching that scene and I was just like, that's a real rat. And I paused the movie and I'm looking up like, what the hell did they do to this rat? I thought they drowned one.
Nope.
No, but they did that real thing to it. I was like, okay, well, this is a real thing. And they terrified a rat. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you, James Cameron. You're a terrible human.
There was in the documentary, Johnny Carson wanted the guy that played Sonny. I'm sticking with Sonny. I'm pretty sure that's his name. The guy that always had the rat. They wanted him to come on the show. They wanted them to bring the rat. Beanie the rat died at the end of like several months later after the filming.
Of stress.
Of natural causes, they claim.
Stress.
But yeah, that's exactly what he was getting from everybody. He's like, I'm afraid he died. Oh, he died, huh? Just died, huh? We swear to God. But yeah, so the rest of the cast is a lot of different character actors. Good, though. And one of the things that I appreciate, too, is, James Cameron, he wrote this as well and then directed it. And all the characters, I kind of believed them. They were like that perfect little group of maybe people that wouldn't choose to be together, but are. And so they get along because they don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
And And another thing that I think that was excised out of some of the theatrical version was just some of the moments with them showing that they are kind of this connected little family. Like
when they're singing.
Like the Linda
part's
Ronstadt
great.
song. I
Yeah.
think that was cut out of the theatrical version.
I could see that. It went on for a bit, but I did like that scene. It was just fun. They're having a good time. It's just that ragtag group. Probably like none of them, like the one woman,
One Night,
you figure like she's the country fan. Probably the rest of them don't listen to it, but she's clearly gotten them into it, and now they all know the song.
She has a cassette.
Right, exactly.
They've been down there 6 months, and so they've all heard it a dozen times.
Right. That's exactly how I interpreted that. Of like none of them have heard this song. They all love it now because of her.
Yeah, exactly. That's their song now. Yeah, no, they all did a fantastic job. All the and you want to say that you believe them in the situation they're in, but a lot of that is probably because they're in the situation they're in many cases. For a lot of it, they are 70 feet underwater. They are in the dive suits. They're having these issues, and so that all comes across. It just makes for a good, believable film as far as the cast is concerned.
Yeah. The other, how far underwater are they supposed to be?
Thousands of feet, as I understand.
So there's several moments where they're just out in dive suits, or not even that. You wouldn't survive that.
No, that's a good point. Well,
they don't make mention, like, even if they just did some throwaway line of like, oh, these are experimental suits, they'll be able to survive these depths. But then there's still the part where Ed Harris dives out to get out from where they've been locked away to swim to a different hatch.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it all works because they do have to come down. They have to equalize to the pressure that they're under. So maybe not thousands, probably definitely hundreds of feet. I know in the end they have to dive like the trench that they go down is like 2.5 miles deep. But obviously they're not that deep the whole time.
The physical body couldn't survive the water pressure.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You could be in a environment, inside an underwater living area, but you couldn't be by yourself in that.
Yeah, that
and
I
he
don't
just
know.
swims through that
Well, and-
like he's swimming in a pool.
And they gloss over the fact that all this water would be above freezing all the time. So when
Just above.
yeah, exactly. And that only comes up once because it's important to the plot. But all the other times they're walking around and knee deep water and
And not
everything.
even
It's like
flinching.
everyone would be dead from hypothermia within about a half an hour of
Right.
the tank, everything getting flooded.
Yeah, those were the parts where I was just sort of like, didn't you just say this water was freezing cold?
Mm-hmm.
She's reacting to it instantly. He swam through it not 10 minutes ago and didn't care. What the hell is this?
Yeah.
That's just Cameron's storytelling of like, shut up, it's important now. It wasn't
Yeah.
important then.
Exactly. Like I said, style over substance.
Yeah.
You know.
But the parts of the movie that I liked was that whole idea of like, the political tension and, like the part where they're seeing like the news broadcasts and everyone's being asked like, well, what if a nuclear war breaks out and somebody's
Nothing
like,
we can really do about
I
it.
can't do anything about it. I try not to think about it. And you've got the woman holding her kid. I'm like, this is more of the interesting movie. Can we get rid of the aliens? We don't need this. This is not important. All of that more grounded stuff was such an interesting movie. And I feel you've got like a good hour and 40-minute movie in there that you can cut and tell a better story, a more streamlined story. Because those were the parts that I kept like clinging on to.
Well, I think it's funny you say that, and this is after watching the special edition. Can you imagine watching the theatrical where all that's excised?
Yeah.
The whole we're on the brink of World War III is excised. You would hate this film.
Yeah.
You would have absolutely hated the theatrical version. And that's really interesting. I mean, like you said, the NTIs is what they call them, the non-terrestrial
Intelligence.
intelligence, are almost an afterthought
Right.
through so much of this, and they don't play a big part. In the end, they do. In the special edition, it's like, oh, that's what's happening. But yeah, it is almost like an afterthought. And so when you cut so much of what they're doing and how it's happening and how it all stops, and it's like, yeah, you go from a message film to a why did that happen?
Right.
Yeah.
And I still even kind of had that thought at the end of the movie because the NTIs like raise their city up, save the underwater rig, save Ed Harris. Everyone realizes we're okay. Lynn goes out. She and Bud have their hug and their kiss, and the movie just ends. And it's just like, well, aliens just made themselves known to the planet.
To the world.
And like, has anyone learned anything? Like Ed Harris learned something.
Yeah.
Lynn kind of learned something. Nobody else
Yeah.
learned a damn thing.
Yeah, how much of this lesson that's been taught to the people right there is going to get out into the world?
None at all.
You wonder. I mean,
Right.
yeah, there's you think there's a more interesting story that comes after this.
Yeah. He goes on like some kind of press tour or something and he starts spreading like this NTI message of peace and looking out for each other but no, roll credits.
I think we'll go ahead and spoil the special edition a little bit here, just so you get an idea of what we're talking about. Is yes, because of this sub has crashed in just off the coast of Cuba. The Russians are involved. There's tensions are high. They're saying that maybe U.S. is blaming Russia for destroying one of their subs. Russia's saying no, it wasn't us, and how dare you? And so literally the crosshairs are on. As all this is happening, some 1,000, 2,000 foot tidal waves come out of nowhere, are screaming towards every shore on the planet.
Yeah.
Whether it's, the USSR, China, United States, East Coast, West Coast, everywhere. There's this giant 2,000 foot wall of water heading for the coast. Everyone's scrambling, and suddenly it just stops.
And they hold.
And they hold for a minute. And what happens is these NTIs can control water. They can manipulate it on sort of like a subatomic level or something like that. And they're responsible. They could wipe us out. And the reason for doing it is because they are able to show Bud all this footage from, atomic bomb testing, wars. He shows them that you guys are going to do this. There's no doubt in our head that you could do this. But then they stop the wave and it recedes. And he asks, why'd you stop it? You could have done it. Why did you stop it? And he points out a message that he had typed to Lindsay when he has to go down to stop the bomb. Stop a bomb. Yeah, Coffee had set off one of the warheads from the submarine and sent it down to where they believe these NTIs were. And so Bud goes down to disable this warhead in order to just potentially save whatever these creatures are. And he sends a message that he knew it was a one-way trip, but he had to go. And he tells her that he loves her. And that's why these aliens, NTIs, whatever you want to call them, that's why they stop everything, because they see hope in humanity. So, I mean, that's a huge message.
And they cut it out.
It was cut out from the film.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, I get that that's the message, and did you need 3 hours to tell that? Like, did you need all of that stuff with, like, we're trying to get there, we're exploring the sub, we're trying to look for Survivor. Like, that's the stuff you can cut out. Those are the things that you can kind of get to real quick. You can just have the guy go crazy, get the nuke, and then want to blow up these aliens that he saw a lot quicker, and then leave in your message. And it's like you said, it's very much that, day the earth stood still kind of thing of like, this is a warning. If you just keep the problems to yourselves, that's fine, but you've all gone into space and now it's our problem. And, the idea of like, nuclear war can destroy us all, that's something that popped up in war games. So I feel like rather than watch this movie, go watch these other two movies. They're a lot better at telling the same story.
I think, though, I think a lot of my enjoyment of this film does come from the style in which it's made.
Okay.
The fact that the technology that they had to create, the level of trouble that they had to go through in order to make this. I don't mind those scenes. I don't mind the searching through the submarine, because I know that they're all there. I mean, that's really happening. They built effectively a submarine to wander through.
Yeah.
They used real submersibles. And then they, of course, they mixed that, blend it with miniatures, and then on a few occasions they actually did use like a smoke-filled room with miniatures to simulate underwater. And it all marries together that you would be hard-pressed to pick out which one's a miniature, which one's the real size, which one's underwater, which one's in the fog, And on a technical aspect, it's just, I love it. I love watching it. I don't mind sitting through all of this film just because I understand what's going on, and it's just, it impresses me. And so in that regard, I kind of like, I give it a pass.
Pass. Yeah, I mean, I applaud their effort. I think it's cool to kind of like you said, just to recreate all of that, just to tell a story. It's impressive, but that for me, that's as far as I take it. It's impressive,
okay, sure.
Good for you. It didn't do anything for me as far as like following a narrative and following any kind of character development. Like that stuff I felt like just went to the wayside, especially since the theatrical version cut out the whole point.
Yes. Yeah. No, so so I do see your point. And I was noticing it too when I was watching it this time, how much or lack thereof as far as story goes there truly is. It is just people sort of reacting to crap that happens
over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yes, I do appreciate the technical aspects and how precise everything had to be. And so that, I think that comes through, and it creates a fantastic film to watch. Maybe not a fantastic film to really bother paying attention to, if that makes sense.
Yes. and it has one of the least, if not the least, believable scene of resuscitating a person I've ever seen in my life.
Definitely knew where that would be a sticking point for you.
I started screaming at my TV. I was like, that is not how a person is resuscitated. They have this plan because Bud and Lynn are trapped in the mini sub, and they're like 60 yards away from the rig, and they only have one dive suit, and the plan is, okay, you swim us back. I know I'll drown. Bud, you swim us back. Lynn knows she's going to drown. She's going to go into hypothermia, and that's what, it'll give him time to revive her. Mm-hmm. So that's the plan. He drags her lifeless body back They do chest compressions. They do mouth to mouth. They use a defibrillator. They declare her dead. He doesn't want to give up. He keeps going. More compressions, more mouth to mouth, more defibrillating. It still doesn't work.
So he screams at her.
He screams at her. He slaps her in the face. He shakes her. Now she's revived. I just started going, no, that is not how this works. Anywhere. You don't scream a person back to life.
No, I knew that would be a sticking point.
I was so mad, and I kept waiting for it was the aliens that brought her back, or they did something. Nope, didn't do any of that whatsoever. Go to hell, James Cameron.
Well, the resuscitating somebody and using the paddles that's just it's a trope in Hollywood that no one does it right.
But
there's doctors. There's shows about hospitals that don't do it right.
Right, and that's fine using the pad. It's just the fact that they stopped doing that, and he just smacked her in the face and yelled at her, and that's what brought her back.
Yeah,
because he was done with the actual medical stuff for a good 35 seconds. Mm-hmm. He yelled at her to live and to fight, and okay, I will. What the hell? Just that really bugged me.
I do it would.
Cut that scene out. Let her die.
And it bugged her too. There's a story about that. They're going at it. James Cameron is a perfectionist, regardless of
really.
Well, perfectionist in filmmaking, not a perfectionist in actual medical
what goes on in the world.
Exactly. And they were filming it, and it was take after take after take. Poor this woman's, it's freezing. She's on a steel plated floor. She's half naked. They're pounding on her chest and everything. And the scene's going, this is going over and over. And then finally they got a take. It's still going well and everything. And the camera that's on her face runs out of film. Mm. And they announce, out of film. She explodes, apparently. Screams her freaking head off. Yells at James Cameron. What runs off the sets. We're not effing animals. and leaves the set. And I think they had to kind of smooth things over a little bit, let everybody calm down and everything before they could resume, try to get the shot again and resume filming. But it was
good for her. I would have been one of those people that would have just stopped it. We're done, James. Mm-hmm. We're done. You're out of your mind. But
it does lead to a scene, and also, where Ed Harris, I think, proves himself to be a really phenomenal actor. There's shots of him reacting to her coming back, and the camera's shooting up at his face. So she's not in the room anymore. It's just him looking at a hole in the floor where they put the camera, and it's him reacting to this, and it's you believe it. Do you believe
that he yelled her back to life?
You don't have to believe that she was yelled back to life, but you believe he's looking at someone effectively coming back from the dead.
Yeah.
So it really brought out a lot in everybody, because everything, I think everyone was just on their last thread.
That's what it was. They weren't reacting to a character come back to life. They were just they were
thank God the shot's over.
Yes, exactly. All right, everyone, we got it. Oh yay! Group hug, we're done. Lunch.
Yes. That may be true.
That's what it was. They were just hysterical.
Yeah. Definitely a film style over substance. I still really enjoy watching it. I liked watching it. I admit I had to sit down and watch it over. I had to do fits and starts just because it is the special edition is 2.5 hours, I think.
2 hours 51 minutes.
2:51. There you go.
I did it in a single sitting.
Did you? Okay.
That was stupid.
Yeah, I did it where I just kind of knocked out an hour one night, knocked out another hour the next night. Was able to get 45 minutes, and then wrapped up the last half hour or something the next morning. Yeah,
I watched it all yesterday. I had to. That was dumb. I knew how long it was. I just didn't know how long it would feel. Because it feels every minute that it is.
Yeah, I could see sitting through it all in one go that it definitely feel like 3 hours.
There are 3 hour movies, and I'm just sort of oh, it's over already? The Dark Knight is 2.5 hours, and you're just sort of it's over? Really? We're done? Cool.
Yeah. I mean, there are moments in the film where I was I wish that lasted longer and everything. You're talking about they have effectively a chase scene between two submarines. And I thought that, that was, I found it a pretty damn exciting scene. I thought, this is almost like Bullet level here. I liked it.
Oh, I wouldn't say it's Bullet level. It was bumper cars underwater.
I loved it. I thought it was it was tense, as kind of edge on your seat.
It was tense. It was just silly because it's just sort of like boop, boop. It's like watching blimps chase each other.
I thought they did a good job ramping up the tension and everything in that. I thought it was good. And I think a lot of the scenes that required the tension, I think they did a fantastic job in conveying that and making you feel it. And, there's the great scene where the crane is ripped off the ship. And
that was good,
and it's coming down to him, and the hose and the wires,
the cable
is dumping and piling. They all you hear is just the sonar beeping and getting closer to it. Suddenly, it's just a solid noise, and then it lands in front of them, and they're like, oh. And then the crane starts sliding off.
They're still tethered.
2.5 mile. Yeah, that was brilliant. I mean, that was a really great tense moment.
Yeah, I did like that part because when they're watching it slide, it's hitting me as it's hitting them. What's about to happen?
Yeah,
I was like, no. There's no quick release button or anything.
No. Where's an explosive bolt when you need it?
Right.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you sitting down and taking 3 hours out of your day.
Out of my life.
Well, now you never have to watch it again.
I won't.
I may do. But I guess that's going to do it. Oh, I did throw this out on Facebook, so we should mention a few other comments. I threw it out on my personal page and on the Time Shifters group, so I have to kind of go to both here. I'll go to my personal one first. Right on my personal page, Chris Buckaroo Banzai page says that this film is 100%. You understand who all the characters are and what they're about, even the ones that are minimal supporting. The effects hold up to this day, and the special edition is definitely the way to go. Pete Quint comments that the tidal wave at the end was one of the best effects he had seen to that point. He says, I haven't seen it since I saw it in the theater. I hope it holds up. Well, you didn't see the wave in the theater there, Mr. Quint. Barry Wurst, friend of mine, he's a film critic over in Hawaii, writes for the Maui Times, says that it's his favorite James Cameron film, and he links to his review. So maybe I should probably copy and paste that link over in the Time Shifters group, or I should have already. But that's all I had on the personal page.
On the group page, Scott Sachs said, thought it was really good up until the end, and then it went terribly wrong. I wasn't a fan of that. Not sure how I would have ended the movie, but I know it haven't been like that. Felt too corny. I wonder if he's talking about the theatrical or the special edition.
Billy Flynn did ask if he saw the theatrical or the director.
Oh, okay.
And he does say neither is a perfect ending, but the theatrical is really disappointing. And Scott did reply that he's pretty sure it's a theatrical because he saw it on HBO. So Billy and I both suggested that it would be worthwhile to him to see the director's cut. I think that was all we got.
Yep.
So yeah, absolutely good for the special edition. It may not be a perfect film, but it's definitely a less of a waste of time. If you're going to waste 2 to 3 hours of your time, go for the special edition. I did get a letter from Floyd, but it was really just him commenting that he really enjoyed the Comic Expo episode. He really needs to get down there to meet his friend Paul, who owns the comic book world. And he asked, so did you guys like talking to Summer Glau? Yeah, I guess Tom and I did kind of gush a little bit about, we talked for a few minutes, and, we did probably gush a little bit. I can't help it. She's just one of my favorite people to talk to and happen to see on television and film, So yeah, I guess that's going to do it. Did we talk about what we're going to do next week? You mentioned there was a film that I dug up a while ago that I hadn't watched in a long time, so I wanted to watch again. It was a film that you're very familiar with.
Yeah.
You and your sister apparently used to watch it a lot.
My brother and I.
Your brother and I, okay.
It was one of those movies that, when I think it was HBO was still kind of hadn't done any original content and hadn't really built themselves up. They just sort of, bought movies at the cheap and looped them all day. So I watched it every time it was on.
So when they were letting the Beastmaster print cool off from repeated running?
So it was the Tom Selleck movie Runaway.
Yeah.
So that's just one of those movies that I still really like that movie. So yes, we're going to watch that. We're going to talk about that. I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember a lot of it.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I really just watched it month and a half ago, I think. It turned out on Amazon Prime, and I'm like, really? Huh? I haven't watched that in a while, and so I did tune into it, and I think you'll be pleased. I think you'll like it better than The Abyss.
Oh, I know I will, because I still remember quite a bit of it. There's whole scenes that I remember, and yeah, definitely going to enjoy it.
And you got Tom Selleck and Gene Simmons. I mean,
Can't go wrong.
What more do you need? So that'll be our film next time when we come back. So until then, thanks everyone for listening. Any feedback or anything, timeshifterspodcast@gmail.com. Come and tweet at us at timeshifterspod, at Movies at the Mat, or join the Facebook group and leave any comments there on this or any episode you happen to listen to. We'll be glad to bring up any old topics if you got something to say about it. So yeah, that's going to do it. Thanks for listening, Matt. Thanks again.
Yep.
Sorry it didn't,
Wasn't bad, just was there.
All right. Fair enough. Thanks, everyone. We'll catch you next time.